want this to change. I want my nephew life to mean a lot to a lot of people around the world, and most definitely the culture, especially us screaming the culture, us coming from the culture, us having a culture album and changing the game from style to swag to jury. And now we're gonna change it from guns into to laws. Time to clean it up, and I feel like I can do that. I can help that.
It doesn't have to be this way, right? And that's part of what we need to remind, in particular, folks who are growing up in a community where they do hear gunfire, and that is a fear. You have a right to be safe. You have a right to expect that the leaders, especially those who are in elected office, will meet that expectation. Like my parents were active in the civil rights movement.
Lie! Nobody wants to tell the truth.
Now, I'm not one to be arrogant or pat myself on the back, but I do have to say, I told you so. I told you all that vote blue no matter whose season is here. I told you all that benign neglect season has begun. And you know how we know this? Well, we know this because whenever the midterms or presidential election comes around, the moment you begin to see Democratic Party politicians attaching themselves to hip hop artists like White on Rice, you know that benign neglect season has officially begun. It's only with Black Americans that the Democratic Party use rappers to get the Black vote over persuading us with actual policy. Now, since 2004, the Democrats' go-to rapper of choice has always been Diddy. But in 2020, the Democrats decided to go in a different and more ratchet direction by employing Cardi B as their main rapper of choice. But as of now, outside of Diddy, who is their staple go-to rapper, we don't currently know who the Democrats will choose as their go-to rapper for 2024. They may run it back with Cardi B, or they may step it up and head into more extreme ratchet territory by employing Sukihana or Sexy Red. But as of now, they're still testing the waters. And as they're testing the waters, up next to convince Black voters to continue to vote blue no matter who is Quavo. Recently, Quavo met up with Kamala Harris at the White House to discuss gun violence. Yes, a man whose rap lyrics are filled with the glorification of gun violence is now at the White House with Kamala Harris discussing gun violence. 9 months after seeing his nephew and bandmate take off shot to death as an innocent bystander during an argument outside a Houston bowling alley, Migos rapper Quavo has gone on a gun control offensive. This week, he met with Vice President Kamala Harris at the White House, spoke on a panel about combating the issue during the Congressional Black Caucus Legislative Conference in Washington, and appeared on Good Morning America Thursday morning talking about gun violence in the U.S. I feel like your calling comes at the least expected times, he said, according to the Associated Press. You don't think nothing is going to happen to you. I have to do something about it so it won't happen to the masses, especially in our culture. I don't want this to happen to the next person. I want to knock down these percentages. Again, this is a man whose entire persona is that of a real N-word who is always on point and ready to kill another N-word at any moment and at any time if he needs to. But yeah, let's get those percentages down. A total of 48,117 people died of gunshot wounds last year, according to the CDC, the second highest single year tally on record, down 1.5% from 2021, when 48,830 people died of gunshot wounds. While news reports tend to focus on gun violence as a hip hop or Black community problem, it is indisputably the greatest threat to personal safety in the U.S., despite primarily Republican politicians and gun lobby advocates who cite delusional interpretations of Second Amendment constitutional rights. Quavo joined a panel discussion Wednesday alongside Democratic Senator Ralph Warnock, Representative Lucy McBath, whose activism was propelled after the shooting death of her teenage son, and Greg Jackson of the Community Justice Action Fund. Earlier, Quavo arrived at the conference hand in hand with his sister, Tatiana Davenport, the mother of Takeoff.
I'm a survivor. I was there. So at the same time, it could have been both of us gone. So I look at this as me being alive. I have to do this job and make sure everybody aware that losing my nephew, you could be in the same position. I think all of us together is the key, and we need help from this big old building right here.
He said after Takeoff's death, he often asked himself, how do we use guns safely? Now, I highly doubt that he asked himself, how do we use guns safely after Takeoff's death? But I'm not going to go there. Let's just keep reading. And how do we keep them out of the hands of people that make bad decisions, kind of like rappers? I'm kind of in a half and half place, he told the Associated Press. Police have guns, and unfortunately, some of the people in our culture and loved ones have been lost to police brutality. It's all about choices and how we can put a filter on who can use these guns. So this is one of the major issues with using rappers. He's conflating police brutality with gun violence. As I was reading this, I started getting lost in the conversation because I didn't even understand where he was going at this point by conflating the two issues and then going back to gun violence. But the fact that he's even being allowed to speak on this and is being held up as someone that Black Americans should be listening to says a lot about the Democratic Party and what they think about Black America. Last year, Quavo the rapper and his family launched the Rocket Foundation in honor of Takeoff, and he committed $2 million to invest in community violence intervention and says he hopes to develop after-school programs in areas where community centers have been shut down. I feel like after going to the White House, I need resources, he said. I need a bag of goodies so I can take back and say, here, this is for the culture. We have that extension cord. We are plugged into that type of environment. I don't think no one else in our stature is that connected. In order for things to change, we need resources. Now, what we actually need is the closing of the racial wealth gap. Because if we go back to the New York Times article on gun violence that I read to you guys a few weeks back, economics and the lack thereof is the number one reason for gun violence in the Black community. The racial wealth gap is why things are as bad as they are. Once again, this was from the Vote Blue No Matter Who Democratic Party newspaper and news outlet, the New York Times. I just want to put that out there for all you Vote Blue No Matter Whoers, so you know it's not me saying this, it's your news media outlet that said that. But do you see anything in this article or anything in the conversations that were had between Kamala Harris and Quavo about the closing of the racial wealth gap? Absolutely not. Because the moment you close the racial wealth gap, all other disparities begin to shrink rapidly as well. And if those other disparities between Black America and white America begin to shrink, then at that point, the Democrats don't have anything to sell you on when it comes to voting for them. This is why there's never any serious discussion surrounding closing the racial wealth gap, which is the main issue plaguing Black America. They love having these disparities the way that they are, because that way they could pretend to do patchwork and use that as a selling point to continue to get you to vote blue no matter who. And this is exactly what they're doing right here with Quavo. You have him co-sign off on your patchwork job that never addresses the true root causes of the problems in the Black community. Have him say a few nice words, and with that, you should have the Black vote in the bag. At least that's how it normally works. But maybe this time, maybe things might be different. But we'll just have to wait and see. So with all that being said, that does it for today's video. So please make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. All social media links will be pinned in the comment section below. I also have a Telegram group now, so if you have Telegram, make sure to hit the link in the description box below as well as pinned in the comment section to join my Telegram group. And also, please make sure you text TD Hip Hop to number 33222. That's TD Hip Hop to number 33222. That way you'll get a text notification whenever I release a new video, but it also serves as an insurance plan for myself, so in case YouTube ever gives me the axe, I'll be able to send you a direct link to where you can find me next. And last but certainly not least, for those of you who have a love and appreciation for the work that I put in on this channel, the number one way you can show your support is through Patreon. For only $3 a month, that will help put me in position to take TD Hip Hop Media off of YouTube. Remember, the goal is not to grow big on YouTube, but to grow independent of YouTube. And for those of you who have issues with joining Patreon, Patreon, you can also hit the join button that's next to the subscribe button, and that way you can become an official channel member for as little as $3 a month as well. And lastly, if you haven't already, please make sure you join the emailing list. There is no way that I can go independent of YouTube if I cannot take the audience with me. And the link to that will be pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you for your time, and until the next video, peace.